everybody can take a seat, we're going to begin with a prayer. JT.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, as we bow tonight, we want to thank you for this day you've given us. Lord, we just want to thank you for your mercy and grace. Heavenly Father, as we come together tonight, we just pray that everything that is done and said here, you get honor and glory for. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. Lord, I pray you'd bless each and every one who's here. For the candidates that are going to be speaking tonight, Lord, John and Perry, I lift them up to you, and I pray your blessings on both of them. And Heavenly Father, I just pray that no matter which way this election goes, you keep them both humble. And Heavenly Father, that they might be able to serve and represent you. Lord God, I just pray for this nation. I thank you for the 250th year we celebrated. Heavenly Father, I just pray you continue to bless us. Lord God, I pray for our troops. I pray for our president. Lord, I lift them all up to you, and I just pray that you would continue to bless us and take care of us. Lord, we thank you for Jesus Christ, your Son, that died on the cross for our sins. Father, we ask this in the blessed holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Could you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are so lucky that the VFW allows us to use this space, and I want everybody to give a warm welcome to Jeff Eby. He's going to tell us a little bit about what's happening here at the VFW.
Thank you. Hey, it's great for y'all to be here. We really enjoy hosting these events. We've done a couple here, and we really enjoy having y'all out. We do a lot here at the VFW, and I talked to somebody a few minutes ago, and they said, we didn't even know where the VFW was. I'm thinking, what? But, so we're trying to change that, and, we do a lot of stuff that we invite the public to. On Monday nights, we do bingo. We have a great time in here on Monday nights. It's free bingo. If you're interested in that, come on Monday night. On Wednesday night, we do the trivia. Back in the bunker back there, and we have a good crowd, and that's really fun. And then Thursday night, and I've had some questions about this, we do line dancing lessons. So we have a teacher up here, and we'll have 40, 50 people doing line dancing, and they teach different line dancing, and it's really fun. And then we'll have a band come in after that, and then you can practice everything that you've learned. And then Friday night we do karaoke, and then we have a band on Saturday night. So we've got something going on just about every night of the week. Of course, Saturday we had our huge event, and it was a very, very successful. We had a lot of people up here, a lot of visibility. Our fireworks was great. We had 5 different bands playing in here. We moved it inside, and thank goodness, because it was so hot, and everybody was glad that we moved inside. We have craft vendors all through here, and it was a really good time. And of course, before that, we had the wall event, which was really good, really moving. And we really enjoyed that. We had a great crowd of people coming out and really pay tribute to that. And so we were so thankful we were able to do that. So if you have any questions about the VFW, just come ask me. Also, the bartender wanted me to tell you, they're going to shut the door because we got some ladies back there playing bunco tonight. And sometimes they can get loud. So we're going to shut those doors. If you want anything, just walk around to the other area over there called the bunker, and they can help you with food, drinks, or whatever. So thank you again for coming, and good to see y'all here. Thank you.
Just some reminders before we get started. Early voting starts in 10 days. It runs from Friday, July 17th through Saturday, August 1st. You can early vote at the library or at the Election Commission office in Charlotte every day of early voting. The times will be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8:30 to 3:30. Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And on Saturdays, 8 to 11. You can review the ballot by going to the Dickson County Election Commission's webpage. And if you're not sure where you vote or what district you live in, you can go to Tennessee Voter Registration Information Lookup, which there's a link on our Dickson County Election Commission's page. You want to make sure you develop a plan to vote and encourage others to vote. This is the first time Dixon County will be voting for a Republican mayor. So we're hoping that every person who is a Republican gets out and votes for Danny Williams, as well as all of our other candidates that are running as Republicans. And we're going to take the time to let them come up and introduce themselves, the ones that are here this evening, and I hope I got all of you. Jerry Baker is running for School Board District 2. If you don't know where District 2 is, you can look it up on the Dixon County Election Commission's page.
I just want to say thank you to the VFW, thank you to the men and women who have supported this country, fought for this country. I just want to say this is the GOP. We are the Republican Party. We work together. Let's work together. Whoever wins this election coming up in this primary, let's support them, let's encourage them. I want to say thank you. I'm very humbled and honored to represent you for the Dixon County School Board. I am running for Dixon County School Board District 2. I look forward to working with the members of the school board to help our students have a better education in our public schools. But then, just thank you so much. Again, let's get out and support our Republican candidates. So thank you very much.
We have two other Republicans running for school board. Philip Chadwick is running for School Board District 4, and Aaron Parker is running for School Board District 6. Philip Chadwick does have an independent opponent, so if you are living in Philip Chadwick's district, please make sure you get out and vote for him. Our county commissioners that are with us, county commissioner candidates that are with us tonight: Kenny McAllister for District 2.
Thank you all for having me. I appreciate being here. Most of you in this room know who I am, so I'm not going to go down a long road of trying to explain that. I've hit on a lot of doors. I do want to just, since I'm up here and I got the mic, I want to encourage everybody to get out and try to encourage your friends, your families, your neighbors, and everybody to vote. Most of the people I'm going and talking to, they have no idea that there's actually a primary in Dixon County. They may not even go back and vote again in August. So make sure we try to protect this conservative values that we all have. Get out there, vote for the R. I'm very honored to have the R beside my name. Like I say, encourage everybody that you know, talk to everybody you know, because a lot of them just don't know that we have another ballot to be on to be able to get in there. Thank you.
Gives me the great opportunity. We have in the back of the room Proud to Vote signs with our Dixon County Republican Party logo, as well as the dates of the two elections coming up, August 6th and in November. So if you want one of those in your yard, please grab one before you leave. Dennis O'Shea is with us from, he's running in District 3, County Commissioner.
Hey y'all, I'm Dennis O'Shea. I'm not a politician, never thought I would be until I saw some things happening that I wanted to get involved in. So I am running for County Commissioner for District 3. I'm a retired fire captain, retired Navy chief, and now a farmer and business owner here in Dixon. Like Kenny said, I was in Van Leer today and people thought that the election was already over. So make sure you tell your friends that there is a general election coming up and get out and vote. And if you are in District 3, look me up. I do have cards with me. Ask me any questions you might have. I'd love to talk to people and get out there and let you know who I am so you can feel comfortable with your vote. And vote for Dennis O'Shea. Let's keep the country, huh?
Joey Wang from District 4. All three of these gentlemen, Kenny, Dennis, and Joey, they do have opponents who are running as independents.
Thank y'all for having us out here tonight. I hate to sound redundant, but the most important thing right now is just getting everybody out to vote. The Dixon primary, my district had less than 10% people show up to vote that are registered. So just again, talking to our neighbors, talking to our friends, getting them to talk to their neighbors, their friends, and to keep the Republican Party in control and everything else, we've got to get out and vote. And that's the biggest, weakest link that I'm seeing right now. Thank you.
Jody Britt from District 8.
I'd like to thank the people that put this on, and I'm running unopposed this time, so I'm fortunate in that area. And I do want to say that I agree with what the candidates before me have said. This primary has confused a lot of people, and there are a lot of people that think the election's already over. So make sure that you get out, talk to your neighbors, your friends, and make sure they get out and vote. That's going to be very important. I'm just shocked at how many people don't understand that the election's still going on. So have them get out and vote.
And then Danny Williams, who's running for county mayor, is with us this evening.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for putting this on, the local Republican Party. So I'm very honored to be the first mayor nominee of the Republican Party. It's definitely been an honor. So I want to thank all of you that got out and supported us in May. It's very important. I'm very honored to be before you and hopefully can earn the vote of Dickson County to be the next Dickson County Republican mayor. So I'm not going to go through a whole lot. I tell people we've been out traveling across Dickson County since December, and I feel like I've told the same story so much that I'm tired of telling it. I'm sure you are tired of hearing it. But thank you all for coming out tonight, and it truly is an honor to be here, and thank all of you for coming out again. So thank you.
As most of you probably know, Danny has 3 opponents that are running, all running as independents, and voting records indicate that 2 of them are definitely Democrats. So we want to make sure that we elect somebody who is a Republican and is also willing to say he's a Republican and stand up for our party and for our values. You know, it is confusing when we go to the election in August because we're looking at 2 different elections. We're looking at the general election, which you just met our candidates, and then we're looking at a primary election. And we know that we have 3 Republican candidates running for governor, Marsha Blackburn, Monty Fritz, and John Rose. So we have to make decisions about who we're going to vote for. So do your best to be educated about those 3 individuals to make sure that when you cast your vote, you're voting for the best Republican, because we want to continue having a Republican governor, but we want the best Republican governor. Also running in the primary, unopposed, will be Senator Bill Hagerty for the Senate, and then Congressional District 7, we have Matt Van Epps, who's running unopposed, and Kerry Roberts, our state senator, is also running unopposed. In our state executive committee to the Republican Party, Alex Joyner and Marianne Parks are both running unopposed. I'm going to ask Marianne to come up and tell us what the state executive committee is. Because a lot of people don't know what that is. You're going to go in to vote and you're going to say, well, who are these people and what am I voting for? I put her on the spot. I didn't tell her I was going to have her do this.
Well, at least that's one of those. Okie dokie. So the State Executive Committee is the governing body for the Tennessee Republican Party. So that means there are 33 Senate districts in Tennessee, and from that you elect 1 man and 1 woman. So there'll be 33 men, 33 women. That's the governing body. We pass the bylaws, we hire the chairman, that do those kind of things. And then mainly it's outreach to our counties to try and, keep them growing, have meetings, just try to grow the party as much as we can. So in our district, it is Robertson, Cheatham, Hickman, Humphreys, Dixon, and part of Montgomery. And Larry Hillis has been my partner for the last 4 years, but he's got an elderly mother-in-law to take care of, so now Alex has stepped up, and we're both running unopposed, so we like our chances.
Alex, do you want to come up or just stand up and wave so they know who you are? Today I received a text message from Jody Barrett, and he said, "What do you want me to do tonight?" And I said, "Be prepared to give a 3 to 5 minutes speech." And then I thought, that's really not fair. He's running for office as well. So Jody, can you please come up, take what time you need to tell us why you continue to be the best candidate for District 69?
All right, good evening. How is everybody? All right, good. We'll get some energy going in here. I am Jody Barrett. I am currently the state representative for the 69th House District, and I am running unopposed in this primary, but I will have a Democrat opponent in November, so we'll be looking forward, hopefully, to have all of you helping push me across the finish line later as we get into that. You probably noticed that I've intentionally kind of laid low this summer. I've tried to not put any signs out or get involved in promoting my race because I want to not step on the toes of the gentlemen that are here tonight or the county mayor's race and try to make sure that they have the full spotlight. So you probably won't see anything going out for me until after Labor Day. I'm going to wait until we get into October, November, and then we'll push hard there at the end. So Mary made a crucial mistake when I walked in this evening. She just told you that she gave me 3 to 5 minutes, but then when I walked in, she was apologetic, and she says, "Well, really what I meant to say is just take all the time you need." So we'll do that. Give a lawyer and a politician a microphone, you never know what you're going to get. So I thought it was appropriate tonight, before we have John and Perry come up and go through this process, which I've been through several times now. Did a lot last summer with the congressional race. I think we had 26 or 7 candidate forums. And so before I get started talking about what I'm going to talk about, I really want to make sure that everybody here gives them the gratitude and expresses their thanks for these guys putting themselves in this position, because this is hard. What they're doing, having to run in 2 counties, having to answer all these questions, go knock on doors, put signs out, organize a team, raise money, the hardest thing to do, it's difficult. And these guys should be applauded for stepping forward and putting themselves on the line for you guys to be able to judge them in everything they do. So please give them a round of applause. So why am I the best candidate for the 69th district? I just told Mayor Ryle when I walked by, I said, may not be the best, but I'm the only one. Maybe the best thing I got going for me. Last summer, as I ran for the congressional seat that was vacated by Mark Green, one of the 10 opponents that I had in that primary had a tagline that he used quite a bit, saying that he was the most effective legislator on the ballot. And that had a dual purpose, right? It was self-promotional, but also it was a pejorative. I was just coming off of a session where all of my legislation was being blocked and I was being punished and kind of shown who's the boss in Nashville. So I understood what he was saying whenever he said that. And then this summer, I've heard it said that, maybe we need a better politician, or Jody's not a good politician. Whoever we get in this other seat, we need to make sure that they're a better politician than Jody. So I thought, well, let's talk for a few minutes about what makes a good politician? What makes an effective legislator? And since I have the microphone, I get to do it, and you have to listen to me. There are three things that I think go together. There's core competencies, there's character and ethics, and then there's political and interpersonal skills. And there's a reason I put that last. So I'm going to start with the core competencies, and there's three of them. First thing is decision making. In order to have somebody be a good or effective legislator or a good politician, you have to have the ability to digest, comprehend, and weigh complex information. Mayor Ryle can tell you, not everything's black and white. In fact, almost nothing is black and white. It's all gray. And there's nuance to everything that we're dealing with, particularly in the legislative side of things, when something as simple as the location of where a comma is and how a bill is written can have a big impact on things. So being able to understand that, have the intellectual ability to digest that and do it quickly in a rapid, pressure-filled situation is important. Being able to make informed decisions, not just going off half-cocked and saying that you believe this or you're going to do this without knowing all of the facts. That's important. And then being able to stand by the choices that you make, defend your choices, defend your votes, defend your stances, and be able to do it in a way that people will understand and appreciate. Number two, good communication and active listening. Obviously, public speaking is part of this. It doesn't come naturally to a lot of us, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. More importantly, maybe though, is active listening. Being able to listen to your constituents, understand their needs, what it is they're actually telling you that they want you to do, and then when you get to Nashville, remembering what those conversations were. You must be able to convey your vision and explain complex issues to a big group where some people may understand what it is you're talking about. Judge Creasy and I could have an in-depth conversation about certain areas of the law that maybe other people in the room don't have any experience with that. You have to be able to have that conversation with everybody, no matter where they are on that spectrum. And then finally, you have to be able to, and I mentioned this earlier, but you have to be able to defend your votes and your position. So once you land on a position, where you stand on something, whether that's school vouchers or abortion bills or whatever the case may be, you have to be able to have those conversations, not only be able to do it, but be willing to do it. Go and meet people where they are, talk to them face to face, shake their hand, press the flesh, stand there, take the criticism, and then be able to respond and say, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but this is why I feel the way I feel, this is why I voted the way I vote. You have to be able to do that. And then finally, strategic thinking. Are you a proactive person or a reactive person? Reactive people are constantly chasing their tail. You have to be proactive. You have to have a vision and a point B that you're trying to get to from point A where you are today, and a plan for how you're going to do that. You have to have the capacity to plan for that future. You have to have problem-solving skills. And it's not enough just to be a problem identifier. Everybody in this room can name 10 things that's wrong with state government. Probably name 100 things that's wrong with state government. But it's not enough to identify the problem. You have to come up with a solution for it too. Then you have to be able to sell that solution to at least 49 other people to get the votes that you need to get a bill passed. And then finally, you have to be able to adapt to changing circumstances, because it's shifting sand. What you think is the situation today, whether that's the situation with the law or the situation with politics or the situation with interpersonal relationships that you have, people that you think are friends or enemies today will be friends or enemies on the other side tomorrow. And so you have to be able to be quick to adjust and adapt to that. The second area of this is character and ethics. And this is kind of big for me. This is something that I hang my hat on. And there's three sections to this: integrity and honesty. Be ethical, be truthful, be trustworthy. That's key in everything we do, whether it's business, whether it's in your family, in your church, whoever you're dealing with. Be ethical, truthful, trustworthy. As an Eagle Scout, I've had that hammered in my head since I was 8, 9 years old. Build and maintain public trust. Outside attacks are going to come. When that happens, like last year, and there's all this outside money trying to define who I am, That didn't penetrate here in this county because I've built that public trust and you know who I am. So you candidates, that's gonna be your task. Build that public trust. You have to win the election, but once you win the election, you have to start building that public trust. Build relationships and earn respect among colleagues, staff, lobbyists, media. Once you get in there, it's not enough to be liked at home. You also have to be able to operate up there. I've found out that's harder than I thought. But you don't stop trying, and you don't stop making the effort just because you run into a brick wall on day one. That gets into some of the other stuff I'm going to talk about. Humility is a big thing. Having self-awareness is extremely rare. There are so many people that are not self-aware of their own issues, their own deficiencies. I am nothing if not that. Self-deprecation is one of my key weapons. I can pick on me better than anybody else. So if you want to call me fat or bald or short, whatever the case may be, I've got all those jokes. So I can tell them for myself. Recognize blind spots, acknowledge weaknesses, and check your ego. It's not about you guys. It's about the people that you represent. And it's not about advancing you or your political career or your reputation. It's about doing what's right. And if you're always trying to do that, the other part will take care of itself. Let others win. That's what humility is about. It's not about if I get a bill passed or if my name's on it. It's about even intentionally giving good bills or good wins, political wins to other people to build them up. Because that's how you build relationships and trust. When you humble yourself and you allow somebody else to take credit for something and get that credit, pat them on the back, they'll remember that and they'll return that favor later. Put common good above personal gain. Again, I come back to this time and time again. The reason we're serving, the reason that we run for this office, think about that today while you're sitting in this chair before you come up here to answer these questions. If you haven't had this internal debate already, have it sometime between now and election day. Why are you doing this? Why do you want this so bad? Why do you want to serve in this capacity? And once you rest on what that why is, remember that. Don't ever forget it. Whether you're up there 2 years or 20 years, always remember why you decided to get into this, because too many people forget that. They forget the reason, the good cause, the service part of this that drove them to do something for their community. And then finally, authenticity. It's really hard for some people, but you have to be real. People know when you're faking it. And the harder you try to fake it, the worse it is. The easier it is to tell. So just be real. Be you. I went to a candidate event last night, congressional debate in the 9th district. And one of the candidates was reading his answers. He had pre-prepared notes and he just kept looking down. And I told him afterwards, I was like, man, you're gonna have to throw those notes away. Just be who you are. Talk to these folks like you're gonna talk to them at the coffee shop, like you're sitting on their front porch, not with canned responses. Be real, be you, be who you are. Be relatable. Let the mask down. Let people see that you're not perfect, because trust me, we all know you're not. I know I'm not. So stay in touch with ordinary people too. That's important to me. That's why I come home every day from Nashville. I don't stay up there. I want to be in the community. I want to go to the coffee shop in the morning. I want to go pick up my laundry or my dry cleaning, talk to Charlie. I want to be here with the people that I represent so I get that feedback. If you always do that, you'll always be in good shape. And don't promote people or policies you don't like, you don't support, or you don't understand. Again, that goes back to being real. People know when you're faking it. Be real, be who you are, support the things that you truly believe in, and the people that you truly believe in. And finally, guys, just don't tell people what they want to hear. Tell them the truth. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes you get backlash as a result of it. You get criticism. But you'll never be wrong by telling people the truth. It'll never hurt you. Last category is this, political and interpersonal skills. Mary, again, you gave me the open clock here, so, but I'm gonna wrap this up. 3 things about political and interpersonal skills that are important. Collaboration and negotiation. You have to be able to build relationships, bridge divides. Some people, that's hard with. But if you keep trying, you keep trying, you keep trying, eventually it's gonna turn around. So don't give up on people. Find principled compromises without sacrificing core beliefs. Again, be real, believe in the things that you believe in, don't fake it. Don't sacrifice your core principles just because you think that's what other people want you to do. The voters will recognize that. Have empathy for others. You know, in my line of work for 26 years as an attorney, I meet people a lot of times in the worst situation of their life. And you have to be able to possess the compassion that it takes to understand where citizens are coming from, where they're feeling, what they're dealing with. Particularly when they call you up and leave you nasty voicemails telling you how awful you are and what a terrible human being you are. You have to understand where those people are coming from. If you can look past that anger and get to what it is that they're truly dealing with, then you can have empathy for the situation that they're in. Look past the criticism and then try to help them get to a solution. You have to possess that authentic desire to improve the quality of life of people. Again, what's your why? Why are you doing this? Do you really want to try to help people, or are you just trying to climb some ladder? Always remember why you ran, who you actually work for. Those 2 things go hand in hand. When you remember why you're doing this, then you'll always remember who it is that you're doing it for. Is it for the people in your district that you represent, or is it people somewhere else, or in some group, or off in DC, or wherever it is? Remember who you work for and who votes for you. And then finally, resilience. You have to have the endurance to navigate high-stress environments. You have to have the maturity to handle criticism when somebody tells you you're not a good politician. The maturity and the grit and will to overcome setbacks and keep pushing forward, because trust me, they're coming. Wins don't come easily. You have to fight for them. And like the old Timex commercials, you have to be able to take a lick and keep on ticking. If you can do that, all of these things together, or at least some semblance thereof, you can be an effective politician. Being considered a good politician is not something that has ever been a life goal of mine. I don't know that there's many people in the room that ever woke up one day and said, you know what I need in my life? I need a good politician. But I tell you what I have tried to do. I tried to be a good husband. Definitely done that. Tried to be a good father, a good son, a good brother, a good businessman, a good business partner, a good member of the community. And I would submit that all of these things, these characteristics that I suggested that it takes in order to be a good politician or an effective legislator, you need all those to be a good husband, a good father, a good son or a brother, or a good businessman too. So if you find the person in your community that has those things, that is already doing it in their personal life, chances are they're probably going to be okay as a politician too. I'm not perfect, guys. Lord knows that's true. But I feel like I'm doing okay in my personal life, and I'm going to keep working for you real hard in the 69th District. Thank you all for giving me a few minutes to talk about this tonight. Appreciate it.
So Mayor Ryle is going to be our moderator. We gave him a series of questions. I believe there were 20 plus. He's added a couple more. But I told him to tweak them, pick the ones that he felt were most important. And now I'm going to turn, and I want it to be a little bit more comfortable than some that we've done in the past. So I've talked to John and to Perry and said, you know, if Perry gives the answer, and John was going to repeat it, you don't have to say the same thing and take 3 minutes to say exactly what the other one just said. Both Republicans, I'm assuming you have a lot of the same core values, and that's why we're here. But at the same time, I know you're gonna have some differences. So I wanna be able to hear those, but I don't want us to spend so much time repeating each other. So we're not using a timer, got it more like a conversation, and Mayor Ryle is gonna act as our moderator. So gentlemen, if you would join us on the stage.
If any of you are over 50 years old, which I don't know if there's many here, I'm not going to ask, you would probably remember Johnny Carson watching that late night, and that periodically he would have his questions, and they were hermetically sealed in a mayonnaise jar on Pumpkin Wagon's front porch. Apparently y'all don't remember that, so but us people my age remember watching Johnny Carson. These have not been sealed that way, but they were printed this afternoon, and we're going to hit these. We've got several different questions, but we're going to go through it where we go 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1. That way everybody gets to go first, everybody gets to go last on this. So we will start this process right now. I'll try to use my outdoor voice or stand near this microphone. But initially, I'm going to start here and on the right, we'll move to the left. Please introduce yourself and tell us what the big issues are that convince you that you need to run for office that will impact the 69th district.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Llewellyn. I see a lot of familiar faces out there, but for those of you that aren't familiar with myself, real quick, a little bit about my background. I have a background in law enforcement. After I got my undergrad from the University of Cincinnati, I served in a large sheriff's office outside of Cincinnati for 8 years. Met my wife, Leah, moved here in 2007, have lived in Pegram since 2007. And during that time, I've been a federal contractor for the past 19, almost 20 years, investigating Medicare, Medicaid fraud. During that time, I have a unique background, just with that investigative experience. Served 8 years on the Cheatham County School Board and 4 as mayor. So again, as was mentioned earlier, a lot of us in this room, I hope we're all Republicans and conservatives, so we're gonna agree on a lot of issues, hopefully most issues. The big difference that you'll see is approach. And my different approach, again, is my background, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But the main reason that I'm sitting up at this table tonight, and the main reason I want to run for this position is government overreach. It all started with COVID, when we had government officials and politicians who thought that they could tell us how we could run our businesses, if we could or couldn't wear a mask, if we had to get vaccinated or not. That's where it all started for me, and really paying attention to the government overreach. And at some point, someone had to stand up and be willing to have the fortitude to say, no, that's enough. The way I was raised, my father's a former Marine, police officers himself, is everybody's got a voice, use it. And if you're gonna complain about something, you better come to the table with solutions and be willing to do something about it. So that's why I'm up here right now. Many reasons that I'm sure Perry and I both will get into why we both want to run, but my main reason is government overreach. The people in this audience, you don't need someone from Nashville telling you how you need to live your life in Dixon and Cheatham County.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Jeff Eby, for opening the doors, and thank you for the the Dixon County Republican Party and our Cheatham County people that are here from the Republican Party. Normally, this is our meeting night over in Cheatham County, and several of them came here because they felt like this was important. So, welcome to all of our friends from Cheatham County. My name is Perry Keenan, and I'm running for state representative. Born and raised in this district, graduated Cheatham County High School in 1989. Always tell people, for those of you doing math fast backwards, that means I'm 54 years old and I'm officially the oldest person in this race, and I will not hold the youth of my opponents against them. And I love that line in God Bless Ronald Reagan, one of the greatest Republicans of our generation for sure. Born to entrepreneurial parents, mom and dad, they came to Cheatham County in about 1970 and always had that entrepreneurial drive. They started a business over in Ashland City, and then we expanded and moved to Pleasant View, Tennessee. And I grew up in the family business, went to college at Belmont, had the honor of almost flunking out. And they invited me to come back, and Mom and Dad said, yeah, absolutely, you're welcome to go back as long as you're paying for it this time. So I said, all right, I'll go to the only school that I can afford now, which is Nashville Tech. And then I graduated from there, went to Austin Peay, graduated with a 4-year degree at Austin Peay. And so it's funny how I just took college a lot more serious once I started paying for it. But it helped build that desire and really kind of set me on a path of fiscal responsibility. And that's kind of been the mindset of the Republican Party, especially here in the state of Tennessee. So I want to work to bring that same fiscal responsibility that we have to the state. There's things that if it ain't broke, we don't need to fix it. But there's always room for improvement, regardless of what political ideology you fall to. One of the things also that we want to make sure that we're doing is just listening to the people. And I've really enjoyed doing that, specifically here in Dickson County, and just meeting people where they are and hearing from them. And as Jody said, having empathy to listen to their situations, whether it's something that I specifically agreed with or not, or if it was a completely different mindset. And so having that empathy, meeting people on the ground here, it's been a real joy and one of the absolute highlights of this campaign for me. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Keenan, we will stay with you and work back across this way. The next question is, as the district grows, how do we protect our resources, especially water?
So with water, and I've been fortunate to actually spend some time with Scott Miller, who is over the Dickson County Water Authority here, and had those conversations about what does the future of the water department look like. And they've had some challenges. They've had some concerns of areas that they know that they want to be able to expand their water services. Well, water's not cheap though. It's not cheap to expand these services. We've got other mayors in the room that have, I just was with Mayor Moorhead a couple of weeks ago in Pegram, and they were talking about the sewer services that they've got there. And those expansions are not cheap. And so one of the things that we have to do is making sure that on a state level, as a state legislator, we're working to give those guys backbone when they need it, so that, yeah, you're gonna have some communities that may say, well, I don't want you taking water out of my creek because I used to swim in that creek. Or, God forbid, you get somebody that's really to the far left and they're worried about the snail darter, and they don't wanna hurt the snail darter in that creek. Listen, I love all of God's creatures, but at some point in time, we have to be able to stand up and say what's best for our district. Fortunately, Scott Miller and the team here have got a great plan, and they've done a really good job. But there are some instances that they've mentioned that said, hey, it would be nice if we had some extra strength from the state.
Same question.
Yeah, thank you. So before I go any further, I have to say something, and it's very important, and I can't believe I didn't say it earlier. I want to thank my wife. Tonight is our 19-year wedding anniversary. I'm still married because it's my anniversary and we're here. So she's smiling. She hasn't thrown anything at me yet, so thank you, sweetheart. I'm sorry. But with that being said, and like Mary said earlier, most of us in this room are going to agree on items. Don't disagree with anything that Mr. Keenan said, but a key point that I think that needs to be added, coming down to relationships, and a word I used earlier, the fortitude. Dickson County is unique, as in you have 2 state representatives. It's extremely important that both representatives are able to work with one another and have a unified front in Nashville. And again, as we talk this evening, you'll hear some comments from me about being a fighter, sledgehammer, things like that. There are times and there are things worth fighting for, and having that relationship where both state representatives, if it is a situation where we do need to go to Nashville, we do need to fight for the water authority, there needs to be some pushback, there needs to be some funding. Having that unified front, which I can work with Mr. Barrett, we have a personal relationship. If I am lucky enough to serve, we will have a unified front, and that's just an example, the water issue, where if we need to have that fortitude, unified front to go pick a fight, however you want to say it, we're willing to do that.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Mr. Allen. The next question would be, what are your views on balancing the Second Amendment rights with efforts to reduce gun violence in schools and communities?
So I am a firm believer in our God-given right that everyone have our Second Amendment rights. Red flag laws, any of that, I don't need a politician telling me what my rights are with my gun rights. Everyone in this county, in this district, in this country, that's our Second Amendment right.
to own the right to keep and bear arms. And anyone, with the exception of, and I know some of my gun rights activists might not agree with this, but unless you have a violent background, everyone has the right to bear arms, to protect your family. And yes, that goes into a heated debate on how do you handle that in schools. Gun rights, well, I'll keep it simple for you. When I went to high school, there was a bunch of kids that hunted all the time, and they had their shotguns and rifles in their trucks, and when school was over, if they went hunting, we didn't have any school shootings. We don't have a gun problem, we have a people problem. So again, I'll go to that argument every day. It's not, guns don't shoot people, people shoot people, and we have a people problem, not a gun problem. And the recent TFA survey that came out, if anyone has any questions about my stance on your Second Amendment rights, go check out that survey. That's one of the things where I mentioned earlier, worth fighting for. That's a fight that I'm willing to pick. But again, we don't have a gun problem, we have a people problem.
Thank you. The Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. A lot of people forget that the actual push behind that originally and why our founding fathers put that in there was because it was the right to keep and bear arms for what? For protection. For what? From the government overreach and from governments getting out of control. That's the basis of that. And now we've got a situation in this country where people say, okay, we're going to start hammering back on these rights. I don't believe in that. Here in the state of Tennessee, we're very fortunate, we're very blessed that we have a Republican supermajority between the governor, the House, and the Senate. And they've been really good about protecting our gun rights. Constitutional carry? Absolutely, wholeheartedly. And I'll tell you a personal story. As a gun owner myself, our kids, when they were little, I think Madison was about 7 and Liam was about 5. I went to the gun safe and I pulled out, I believe it was my wife's handgun, and I put it on the kitchen table, unloaded of course, but put it on the kitchen table. And I brought the kids into the kitchen and I said, kids, tell me, is that gun bad? And they kind of looked a little puzzled and they said, well, no. And I said, okay, is that gun going to kill people? And they kind of again looked a little puzzled, and you could see their 5-year-old and 7-year-old brains running, and they were like, where's Dad going with this? And they said, well, I guess it could. And I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, if Mommy and Daddy have a dinner party, and we have a house full of people and everybody's hanging out in the kitchen, and that gun is sitting loaded right there on the kitchen table, is that gun going to kill anyone? And my daughter, being as sharp as she is, she said, well, not unless somebody picks it up. And I said, that's right. I said, so are guns bad or are people bad? And she said, well, people are bad. And I said, that's right. You can lay that gun there on the kitchen table and it can stay there 365 days a year, fully loaded with one in the chamber, ready to go. And as long as nobody picks it up and does the wrong thing, that gun's not bad. And I fully stand on that. Guns are not bad. People, unfortunately, we live in a broken world. People sometimes just make broken decisions. And the rest of us as law-abiding citizens have to pay the price for that sometimes. And that's not okay here in the state of Tennessee.
Thank you. Mr. Keenan, we will stay with you for the next question. What are your views on election integrity? Do you support requiring proof of citizenship for voter registration? Should we return to single-day voting?
What was the second part of that, Mayor?
Do you support requiring proof of citizenship for voter registration? Should we return to single-day voting?
I'll take the second half of that first. As far as single-day voting, I really don't have a preference one way or the other. You know, there's people that I'm sure could make an argument either way, and I really don't have an argument one way or the other on that. As far as voter integrity and voter registration and being able to show proof of ID, absolutely, 100%. The state of Tennessee right now is currently ranked as one of the most ethical voting ethics state in the Tennessee as far as election integrity. That's awesome, guys. And part of that, again, goes back to the legislators that we've got up there that are working very hard to protect the voter integrity that we have in this country. Kudos to Jody and Mary and others that have been like right in the breach trying to protect our rights for that. The Save America Act right now, like there's parts of that I believe are specifically tied to, you know, the Democrats having a problem with someone showing an ID. Listen, in the state of Tennessee, every time I go vote, guess what? I have to show my ID. So why wouldn't we? why wouldn't we want to have election integrity and protect what so many have fought and died to save us from the tyranny of others? Like, we've got to protect it tooth and nail.
All right, so I often don't like to oversimplify things, but for me, this is one, it's a simple answer. Absolutely, you should have to show proof of ID, period. I don't care what your ethnicity is, where you're from. If you're gonna vote in our elections, yes, you have to show an ID, end of story. Regarding single day elections, indifferent about the situation, but as Jody mentioned earlier, extremely important to use these and listen. And if someone, for example, Kanta, if she came to me and gave me a great argument of why she feels we need to have single day elections, or Mr. Moorhead, the opposite. Again, using these and listening, but for that particular indifferent opening to listening and hearing arguments. But again, simple answer, yes, you should absolutely have to show ID before you vote.
Thank you. And we'll stay with Mr. Allen. And the next question is, are you in favor of school choice? What should that look like? And how do we balance vouchers with free, appropriate public education for all?
So I am 100% in favor of school choice. Where my opponent and I might differ a little bit is what that school choice looks like. I 100%, and you won't find anyone in this room that will support a parent's choice. If you want to homeschool your child, absolutely, that's your right to do it. If you want to send your child to a private school, absolutely, that's your right to do it. If you want to send your child to public school, absolutely, you're right to do it. Where, and again, I don't want to speak for my opponent, but where I am indifferent and differ from a lot in the legislature is our tax dollars should not be paid for that choice. Again, send your child to private school, absolutely. Just don't take my tax dollars to pay for it. On top of that, what's even more concerning to me, even if I did agree with that in theory, that we should use our tax dollars for that, what is most concerning to me is we're not tracking where those tax dollars are going. We have no idea who's getting them. There's percentages thrown out there, and we don't even know what's correct. Is it 80% of the people who are getting the money already with their child already going to private school? We don't know because we're not tracking the money. So again, even if I, in theory, agreed with vouchers, as taxpayers, everybody in this room should be concerned that you don't know exactly where your taxpayer dollars are going. And Mayor Ryle, I apologize, I got off on a tangent. What was the other part of the question?
No, I'll have to read it too. You really hit the highlights. So your favorite school choice, what should that look like? And how do you balance that with vouchers versus free public education?
Yeah, and just going back to, those are our tax dollars. We have to track them. Send your child to private school. Just don't use our tax dollars because I'm telling you, the way the program is set up, it is not sustainable. 5, 10, 15 years from now, the way that it's set up now, it's not sustainable.
Awesome, thank you. So, parents' right to choose. To me, that goes a little deeper than schools, but we'll touch on schools first. So, parents' right to choose where they send their kids. Absolutely, 100%. We're one of those split kid households where when our kids were teenagers, we had my daughter who was in public school, and my son was in private school at Pleasant View Christian. So I get it, and I understand as far as school vouchers, why some parents, especially that are dual income working families, would love to see their tax dollars that they've put in, and they don't want to send their kids to a public school. They would love to be able to have some of those dollars come back to them so that it can help them pay for the ticket to go to a private school. The problem that we have is we're not sure, and we're working on it. I say we, figuratively, the Republican Party, specifically the legislature, they're working on nailing this down to have better answers about where the money's going, who's receiving it, how many kids are on the program, that type of thing. All throughout my time as mayor, I would tell my city council members all the time, we're not throwing good money after bad. So I'm absolutely 100% on board with, if we find that this is unsustainable, we've got to turn the spigot off, people. I'm not one to just go in and waste money. I'm not going to throw good money after bad. If it's broken, then we need to fix it. But I'm also not for just letting it run broken until we find a way to fix it. We just may have to turn it off and go back and go to the drawing board. Touching a little bit more though on parental choice, one of the problems that I see that we get oftentimes in this country, and I hear it from people on the streets here in Dixon and over in Cheatham County, is parents need more control and more say over their kids in general. I can't tell you the number of parents that I've talked to that have teenagers, that a teenager's gone into the doctor's office and they've gone in without the parent because maybe the dad took the daughter to a doctor's appointment and the daughter didn't want the dad in because it's uncomfortable. She might be a young teenager, she's going through changes. And then when she comes back out and the dad says, okay, doc, everything okay? Sorry, can't tell you, HIPAA. Listen, if that kid's on my income tax returns and they're on your income tax returns, you should absolutely have a say in what their doctors are doing and what the doctors are telling your kids and mine.
Mr. Keaton, we'll stay with you with the next question. What additional steps should Tennessee be taking to support the deportation of illegal immigrants?
So right now, the state legislature has been really firm on passing legislation that they've got, and I believe a lot of that went into effect July 1st of this year. So that's one of those where I truly feel like the current elected officials on the state level have got a good handle on that. Making sure, again, kind of going back to election integrity, making sure that people truly are who they are when they come in and vote and they have to show an ID. And I think all of us probably know at least one or two people that are here on work visas, or maybe they have a green card and that kind of thing. They're legal. And they're legal until they're not. If their visa expires, they need to go home. If they get in trouble and they break the law, they need to go home. And I think if you talk to ICE officials and you talk to some of the higher up elected officials, specifically also like our sheriffs here, Sheriff Tim Eads, Sheriff Tim Minkley, they're gonna tell you the same thing. There's a lot of really good people out there of multiple nationalities that are here on work visas. This is the greatest country in the world, and we'd love to have them as long as they're law-abiding when they're here.
Thank you. So this is something, if everyone was paying attention about my background, this is something I know a little bit about. And this is, and I don't want to be negative, but I want to give kudos when they're necessary. This is one of the areas where I think the General Assembly got it right. Our sheriffs in the state of Tennessee should be required to cooperate with ICE. If they have someone in their jail in Cheatham County, Dixon County, and there's an ICE holder, they should be held. Period. No questions asked. It's one of those that's a simple one. What I don't think we need to get into the business of is we don't need a perfect example. My son is a police officer in Metro Nashville. He should and be cooperating with ICE whenever they need it. But what we don't need are deputies and Metro officers out doing immigration enforcement. We're already short-staffed. Sheriff Eads, Sheriff Binkley, they don't have the staff to be doing that. But 100% the General Assembly got this right with the new law that Mr. Keenan spoke about July 1st. We have to cooperate with ICE. We have to honor those holders. But we're not in a situation where our deputies here in our rural counties need to be performing those functions.
Thank you. We're going to make here a really easy question. This is a yes or no question. Do you know the difference between a man and a woman?
Yes, yes, yes.
Sorry. No, it's okay.
You really want a politician to only use one word for an answer? Yes, 100% yes.
Sorry we got off on a tangent there, but unfortunately we live in a world that seems to be in question sometimes, so thank you both.
You don't think you have to worry about that.
That is the correct answer, I can tell you that. Back on to the next question, back to you on this, Mr. Keenan. Regardless of the outcome of this election, are you willing to publicly support your opponent in the general election?
Same answer as before. Yes, 100% yes. We absolutely have to protect this district, regardless of either one of us that win. We both, the one thing you can rest assured is, both of us have this district's best interest at heart. 100% yes.
Yes, sir. We have to keep conservative principles. We have to keep District 78 conservative. And simple answer is yes.
We'll stay with you, Mr. Allen. How would you work with local government officials to support the growth of small business and industry within our communities?
So that is one that is 100% built on relationships and trust. Whether it be my time on the school board or mayor, or even if I'm lucky enough for this position to serve, you have to work with the other elected officials. And again, I'll use another reference, you have to use these and you have to listen. I live in Peterham, I'm in Dixon all the time. My wife and I shop in Dixon all the time, but nobody knows Dixon County better than Danny Williams, or nobody knows the city of Dixon better than Mayor Weiss. So that's why, as a state representative, I need to listen to these other elected officials, and they need to know, because I've built those relationships. I'm building those relationships and will continue to foster those relationships. They know that if they call me and say, hey John, hey Jody, this is what we got going on in Dixon, we need your help. We've got this legislation that's stonewalling us. Or hey, we need this type of specific grant, or we just need you to go fight for this so we can bring this to Dixon. Those relationships and using those ears that the good Lord gave you, that's how you handle that. And especially at this level in Nashville, if you're going to Nashville to fight for your district, Perry and I like to think we're both smart guys, but we don't know everything. So surround yourselves with the experts and those that deal with it on a daily basis. Then we know what to go to Nashville to fight for. And again, you're not always looking for a fight, but there are some things worth fighting for. And if that's what the mayors are, hey guys, we need you to fight for this. This is what we need. That's what you do.
So for this one, again, touching on my upbringing with parents that were entrepreneurs, small business owners, still small business owners over in Cheatham County. Working in the family business, I speak that language. I understand just how critical small business is to this entire district, actually to this entire state. It is truly the lifeblood of the economic engine that we have here in the state of Tennessee. Small mom and pops, people that just have 10 employees or less, it's critical, and we absolutely have to protect them with everything that we have. I'm very blessed to have received the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce's endorsement in this district. I'm excited about that. And I'll lean into some of the experiences that I've had in the past, especially as mayor, and I'll give you the short version of a long story. We had a soldier that was coming home. He'd done 8 or 9 tours as 5th Group Special Forces out of Fort Campbell. And he wanted to open a distillery, and he needed some help getting that done. And he had landed on Pleasant View, and he reached out to me, and I may or may not have sampled a little of his products prior to his meeting, but he reached out and he said, I need help because I really want to be able to open this business. It's my dream, and this is the way that I'm going to retire out of the military. How do you not help that person? So we set up a meeting where Andy could come in. He met with our building and codes officials, and we didn't have any laws on the books that said, hey, you can actually open this type of business in the town of Pleasant View. And so what did we do? We got busy and we put laws on the books that allowed him to be able to open. Not only did that help him reach his life dream of being able to retire out of the military, it also now has set him on a phenomenal trajectory where he outgrew Pleasant View, moved into a new location in Clarksville, has outgrown that one, and now has a phenomenal multi-story facility right next to F&M Bank Arena in downtown Clarksville. Those are the kinds of stories that you get to lean into, and I listen, as mayor, I got to do a lot of amazing things, but those are the ones where you lay your head down at night and you're saying, man, that one was special.
We'll stay with you, Mr. Keenan. The question here is, there's been a move in secondary schools for more CTE training. What are your thoughts on that?
CTE training is key, and kind of taking that to another level. The things like TCAT that we have here. Right now, our school districts, especially our elementary schools in this districts of Cheatham County and Dixon County, are performing better than average, and they're doing a great job. Our high schools, according to PSR and the rating system that they use, are performing a little below average. I'm not an average guy. I'm not okay with average. I want this district and our school system in this district to stay as funded as possible, and I want us to be in the top 20 to 30 percentile of the entire state. Why wouldn't we be? Why wouldn't we want that? We need that here in the state of Tennessee. And with TCAT, a lot of kids are coming out of our high schools and they're not overly excited about the 4-year degree. It's not what it used to be when I was in school many decades ago. And so when kids have an opportunity to come out of high school and go into a facility where you've got on the job style, real world training. You've got labs in place where these kids can learn technical skills, nursing degrees. They can learn how to be HVAC techs and electricians and auto technicians and those types of things, and hit the ground running usually in 2 years or less, and making a lot more money than what we all made out of for those of us that went to 4-year colleges and came out with fancy degrees. They're making more money after a 2-year degree coming out of these TCAP facilities. And you know what? We need that. State of Tennessee is booming right now, and there's a real need for people that are in that industry. So 100% for that.
So Mayor, to answer your question, absolutely support CTE programs. This is another area where the General Assembly has gotten it right. Recently, high schools in Tennessee have received $1 million to put towards CTE, and middle schools have received $500,000. The key to that is we're headed in the right direction, but the key is to keep it going, to not let up, raise those expectations. One of the many things I'm very proud of when I served on the school board for 8 years, Dr. Kathy Beck, our former director of schools here, that's something that we really focused on was expanding the CTE programs in Cheatham County. Everywhere from, getting the welding program at Ashland City High School, Cheatham County Central High School, up and running and retooled, to a perfect example is my son participated in the criminal justice program at Harpeth High School. It was amazing. Now he's a Metro Nashville police officer. So we're headed in the right direction with CTE, but that's one of the areas, and hopefully we get the opportunity a little bit later to talk more about education, but our public schools are under attack, and that's one area where we can really focus, and the General Assembly has gotten it right. We need to keep heading that direction, because back in our day, if you didn't go to college, you were written off. And as Mr. Keenan mentioned earlier, my wife's father is a plumbing contractor, and there's not individuals out there to do this work, and they can make a lot of work. So we're heading in the right direction. We just need to put the foot on the gas and not let up.
Mr. Allen, we'll stay with you. How do we keep DEI out of public schools when it's part of our teacher preparation at state colleges and universities? Would you be in favor of removing government funding from college universities that try to continue DEI strategies?
Simple answer, absolutely. One of the ways that absolutely our colleges and universities restrict that funding, take that funding away, but even more importantly than our colleges and universities, I'm really worried about our young children that are getting indoctrinated, middle and high school levels, and how do you stop that? Like some of the gentlemen, Mr. Baker that was here earlier, electing and paying attention to conservative school board members. I will tell you, my time in politics, that is the one race, and don't get me wrong, I feel our race is extremely important, but if anybody in this room and anybody in Dixon or Cheatham County is gonna pay attention to a specific race, it needs to be your school board. That's where the rubber meets the road, and that's how we keep these left-leaning liberal agendas, DEI, however you wanna paint it with the broad brush. It starts with conservative school board members, but a simple answer to your question is absolutely I would oppose it and would hold back funding.
100%. DEI has no business in our colleges, and it has no business in our local education as well. K through 12, really, diversity, equality, and inclusion. That's not good. We all want to be diversified. We're okay with people being treated as equal, and everybody wants to be included. But that's not where they're driving this. They're driving this from a liberal agenda that is something that I would say probably 90% of the people in this room don't agree with, and neither do I. Absolutely 110%. We have to yank the funding, and I would be more than happy to be the one to see either sponsors that bill or signs on to it to yank funding from public institutions that try to cram DEI down their throats. That's not okay. That's not why we're sending our kids to college. It's just not okay. So, short answer, yes.
Mr. Keenan, we'll stay with you. How would you address mental health care and addiction services in our communities? What can you do with local government to minimize the impact of halfway houses, and how do you propose to monitor these in our local communities?
Good question. If I meet 10 people on the street, 8 of them are going to ask me about recovery homes here in Dixon County. So the first half of that, mental health. We got an epidemic going on. I think most of us in here, I would say, are at least seasoned and above the age of 25 or 30 for the most part. And we're of a generation here, specifically, the majority of us in this room, where you rub some dirt on it and you just keep going. We don't have to wave a yellow card and say, I need a mental break day, I need a timeout. Like, no. So, unfortunately, our kids these days, though, part of that indoctrination that we were talking about, Mayor, our kids have been indoctrinated where they feel like it's okay to have to push back and say, oh, I'm overstimulated. Oh, I've got some issues. And you know what? They probably, unfortunately, just get over-medicated. My wife and I personally have had conversations with friends that are doctors inside of Cheatham County about this specifically. And the doctors have told us the number of teenage kids, specifically young girls, that come in that need or are on medications for anxiety, depression, mood swings, is astounding. And it's becoming an epidemic. And I fear it's an epidemic all over this country, but specifically in Tennessee, it's an epidemic here. That's a problem, guys. And it's serious. So the mental health, those types of issues, when they get hopped up on, the different drugs that they have to be hopped up on, that can lead to addiction issues. And addiction issues lead to needs for recovery options. And here in the county of Dixon, we have a real problem with what's going on here. And you've got some good people that operate their homes as good stewards in this community, but then you've got a couple of people that hide behind laws like the ADA and the Fair Housing Act, and they thumb it in our nose and say, we're gonna act whatever way we wanna act, we're gonna run this whatever way we want to, and you as elected officials in this county and community, you can't stop us. And you know what? They're right. And so one of the things that we can do, and I've had conversations with Mayor Lyle and I've had conversations with Mayor Weiss, is we can work with our congressmen and our state officials to try to put laws on the books that give these guys, the mayors, an opportunity. Because Danny, God bless you if you're able to be the next one, and we all in this room hope you are. You're gonna have to face this just like Mayor Weiss is facing it right now. They need help. I've actually had conversations with Congressman Van Epps, and he's all for this. He understands that this is his district. This is in the heart of his district, and he needs to protect Dixon County. And whatever he can do on a congressional level to help give us some extra help on that, he's 100% for. Majority Leader Representative William Lambert was in Dixon County last Thursday, and I actually was able to have him and Mayor Donnie Weiss spend some time together that afternoon, on Thursday afternoon, to talk specifically about the recovery house problem that the mayor is facing inside the city of Dixon. And it was good for the mayor to be able to have that opportunity, that one-on-one conversation with Leader Lambert, because he's the third most important person that we've got up on the hill as far as Republicans in the legislature. It was good for William to hear directly from the mayor and hear his heart and hear his concern for this district, because Mayor Weiss is concerned, and he should be. I feel like I'm rambling at this point, so.
No, that's fine. And I should have told y'all earlier, if you need me to restate any question, I'd be glad to.
So this is one that Mary spoke about earlier. No need to ramble for 10 or 15 minutes if you agree with your opponent. I agree with everything that Mr. Keenan just said. The only thing that I would add is this is a situation where I talked about earlier that doesn't need to be talked about and let's take a couple more sessions. This is something that needs immediate action. Let's don't talk, hey, we talked about it this session, maybe we'll file a bill next one. This needs to be dealt with immediately. I too myself had the opportunity to speak with mayors and elected officials. And for those of you that are in the audience, these men and women at the county level, their hands are tied. They're doing everything they can. This is a state and federal problem. I agree with Mr. Keenan. The one thing that I'd like to add to it that I have a real problem with, and I guess it's going back to my law enforcement background, we have individuals, although everybody deserves the right for treatment, we have individuals in this county who are on furlough, and there's nothing holding these facilities accountable if that individual walks away. The good facilities are absolutely gonna let the Department of Corrections know, let the sheriff know, but the bad ones, there's no skin in the game for them to let the sheriff or the state know, hey, so-and-so who's here on furlough has been gone for 3 days. So I've been lucky enough to work with some attorneys here in the area, and if I am lucky enough to serve, I already have legislation that I'm ready to file and build a coalition regarding those on furlough and having actually some skin in the game on these facilities if they don't follow and track and have reporting mechanisms for those that are on furlough that have walked away. They are going to have skin in the game because there's going to be civil penalties.
Mr. Adam, we'll stay with you. If elected, how will you build coalitions that produce positive results for your district and this region?
Goes back to what I said earlier. It's a simple answer. It's relationships. I've been lucky enough, especially in Cheatham County, friends and friendships with mayors, commissioners, school board members, and I've been very intentional about building those same relationships here in Dickson County the past several months, going back to earning that trust, not trying to sound arrogant or presumptive, but if I am lucky enough to win, if I am lucky enough to serve, by the time session rolls around, I've built those relationships, and Danny, who's going to be our county mayor, will know that if he calls, I'm going to pick up the phone. Kenny McAllister, who's going to be a new Dickson County Commissioner, he knows that if he calls John, I'm going to pick up the phone. Not only am I going to pick up the phone, if I have to come meet with you in Dickson, hey, come to my office in Nashville. It all boils down to those relationships and trust. But if you don't have that, nothing's going to get done because it has to be a two-way street. And building those relationships is what makes that happen.
Part of being able to do this job and do it effectively for the best of this community and to serve it well is making sure that when you're working with your fellow legislators, that they're on board with your vision and your ideas. When I was mayor, when John was mayor, we were the top dog. We were the CEO. We wanted something to get done. We just picked up the phone and made it happen, within reason, of course. If Nikki called and said, we've got a problem with a pothole over here, we didn't wait for TDOT. We sent our crews out and just got it done, and then we picked up the phone and we called Nikki and said, hey, we just got that taken care of for you. It's a little different on the state legislator level. If you want to get something passed for this district, you have to get 49 other representatives to agree that whatever you're trying to get passed for Dickson or Cheatham County is also good for them in their district. That's 49 relationships that you have to work with. That's 49 people that you have to develop that trust and that bond. I'm very blessed and very fortunate to already have that with several of the legislators that are up there, whether it's Scott Sapecki, who is in charge of the Education Committee, or Representative Dan Howell, or William Lamberth and what he does, Senator Kerry Roberts. Those are all people that have endorsed our campaign and that are working very, very hard for this state, not just this district, for this state. And so having those relationships with people that can get things done and be able to help also make sure that you're watching out for the pitfalls, because, as Mary and Jody both could tell you, after serving as many years as they had, there's a lot of pitfalls that you have to watch out for. So making sure that they've also got guardrails up that keep you on track and on point for this district, and also making sure that you don't hit that guardrail and jump over it is really key.
Mr. Keenan, we'll stay with you. What will you do to support family farms and protect Tennessee's agricultural economy from corporate consolidation, foreign ownership, and urban spread?
So I actually had a conversation with Congressman John Rose last week when he was in Dickson about this exact same topic. Right now, the big concern that we have is what they call farm conversion or farm turnover, where we have people that have farms that have been in their families for multiple generations, but the kids have either aged out of working on the farm and they've gone on to do whatever else that they want to do, and no one's left to take the farm over. And so, of course, the people that own the farm, it's their God-given right. They want to sell it and retire and ride off into the sunset. They've worked hard. And as legislators, we need to protect their ability to be able to do that. But it goes deeper than that. How do you actually keep it from getting to the point to where they feel obligated to have to sell the farm because nobody in the family wants to take it over? You do that through making sure that in our public schools that programs like 4-H stay fully funded. Future Farmers of America stay fully funded. And not only stay fully funded, but that they work real world situations to see how they can make farming profitable. Your next governor, whoever that is, as John Rose said, if it's lucky enough to be him, one of the things he wants to do is he wants to push for legislation to make it easier for things like the TAEP grant that a lot of these farmers get from the state of Tennessee. But you know, those grants are great. For those of you that don't know in the room what that is, it's a grant that helps farmers be able to purchase new equipment or build new grain silos or add on to their barns or what have you. And so, as John said in that, and I agree, there's too much red tape. And you get a lot of farmers that, they're just farmers. They don't want to have to go through the trouble of filling out grants, and that's just not what they do. They're farmers. And so if we can cut red tape and make it easier for these guys to apply for funding for grants like this, then we absolutely should. If there's an opportunity to reduce legislation or reduce restrictions and cut red tape to make it easier for these farmers to be profitable through, you know, the things that they buy, you know, seeds and fertilizers and those types of things, we need to do that. And once these kids and these grandkids start seeing that farming can be profitable, they're less likely, we hope, they're less likely to say, when I get to be old enough and I inherit the farm, I'm just gonna sell it. They're invested at that point. And we as legislators and the next governor need to absolutely have the back of the farmers. This is a rural district for the most part, and we don't wanna see it overrun with people that just come in with big paychecks and can just pay exorbitant amounts of money to take all these farms off the books.
So one of the ways we help our farmers is to already maintain and hopefully expand the Greenbelt program. A perfect example that in theory keeps our farmers from getting taxed out of their property by surrounding development. So Greenbelt is extremely important, something that we need to maintain and to expand. And I guess it's because of my background, I'm constantly going back to education and our young people. Our 4-H and FFA programs are amazing. One of the things, and I was lucky enough to, with Mayor Ryle and others a few weeks ago, the groundbreaking ceremony for the Dixon County Ag Center. That's a perfect example of how we get our youth involved, keep them going, and then they take over the family farm. In Cheatham County at Sycamore High School, the farm that they're having, there and teaching these young kids not only how to grow and raise things, but then to sell it. And so not only show them, hey, this is a family legacy, but it's also a business, and showing them how to do that. So those two areas in my mind, keeping the programs, and like everyone in this room who's a conservative, obviously for any business, you're cutting the red tape, make things easier, access to grants, but specifically the Greenbelt program is huge. And then back to educating and dealing with the attack on our public schools is the CTE programs and what's going on at Sycamore High School, what's going on with Dixon County with the Ag Center. That's how you keep our youth involved, and to where they're to the point that, and you know, excuse this language, but it becomes sexy to them. Because right now the average kid, farming doesn't sound sexy to them. But if they see it firsthand, they're learning at Sycamore High School, hey, this is a business. It's more than just growing wheat. It's a business. I can make money, and you teach them that. That's one of the many ways that we can make that happen.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. We will stay with you. What, if any, changes would you make in the tax structure of Tennessee, such as an amendment to eliminate the possibility of a property tax? Should the state consider removing sales tax on groceries? And what other ways you see we can improve our revenue for the state of Tennessee? So
one thing that I 100% agree with, and it's going to be a referendum in November, is eliminating state property tax. If my memory serves me correctly, we haven't, here in the state of Tennessee, used that since probably World War II, but it's still on the books. And that's going to be a referendum that I 100% support, will vote for. And the importance of this, so many people say, well, it's just lip service. It hasn't been used since World War II, if that's actually accurate and correct. But here's the thing, guys. If we're not careful and if we don't protect our state, before you know it, we could have the supermajority could be gone. And then all of a sudden you have a situation where we now have a state tax that we don't have now. So I support that referendum. Something else I also support is local property tax. Tennessee is only one of 5 states in the whole country that there's no type of cap. I'm not saying that we take property tax away, because I know every county commissioner and mayor in here is probably going to throw something at me because you have to fund things. But if other states can figure it out that there's a cap, we can too. And even whatever that cap is, 2%, 3%, 6%, whatever that's agreed upon, even at that point, again, if other states can do it, we can too. And if Dickson County needs more, let's say it's 5%, they need more than 5%, then guess what? The law states that the voters can vote on it. If they want more, that holds and makes government more accountable and more transparent. Hey, the cap's 4%, but we need 6%. So then you have to go to the voters and explain to them why you want to go past that cap. And listen, guys, I know it works. I'm from Ohio, and a perfect example is local school districts. If you want to build a new high school in Ohio, where I'm from outside of Cincinnati, the voters get to say so. The voters get to say if you want to build that $300 million school. And what does that call? That forces government to be transparent, show you what money's being spent on, what you intended to be spent on, and just my experience with schools being built, a perfect example, the very few times that it was voted down, guess what? When cuts were made, and there's no bus services, or we can't have this service, and we can't have, because it's an open book, because you're having to sell people on why you want more of their money. When they come back, it passes. So what you do is you get more buy-in from the public, because they're vested, they feel like they have a say-so. A counter argument to that is, well, that's what they elect politicians for. That's what they elected their council members for. That's what they elected their county commissioners for. Well, guess what? I've seen it several times. County commissioners, school board members, small town mayors, they can go ahead and do the exact opposite. So again, there needs to be some type of cap. Other states can do it, we can figure it out, but that's just an example of, because property taxes are getting out of control. But back to the original one, I 100% support the referendum that's going to be up in November.
So in the state of Tennessee, we've got some concerns. Specifically where this is coming from is what's going on in Davidson County, where they just had a 100 to 200% property tax increase on certain people. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the news, especially with the guy that owns the Acme Feed and Seed building in downtown on Broadway or 2nd Avenue, where they literally are taxing this man out of business. That's not okay. That's absolutely not okay. But we've got to be able to find a balance. You know, Mayor Donnie Weiss gave a speech earlier this year at the Methodist Church in downtown, and one of the things, I think it was put on by the Chamber of Commerce, and packed house full of people, and he was kind of going over a lot of the things that they've been able to do in the city of Dixon and that kind of thing. And he said that he was 100% opposed to that because the proposal of putting like a 2% tax cap on your property taxes, here's the problem. Here's where elected officials are going to get in a pinch. Donnie Weiss doesn't need a property tax increase right now. The city of Dixon doesn't need one. But they don't know what the economy is going to be next year. They don't know if the little fat man over in China is going to push a button that absolutely destroys our economy. And next thing you know, we've got issues and the city's going to need extra money. And maybe they need more than 2%. Maybe they need 3%, or maybe they need 4% to be able to just get through the next 24 months effectively without bankrupting the city. So what are they going to be tempted to do? They're going to be tempted to go ahead and pass a 2% property tax, whether they need it or not, because they're scared that if they need it next year, they're not going to have the money. And then they may need more than that, and then it's going to go into a referendum where the voters get to vote on it, and I don't think there's a voter in this entire room that's going to vote for a 5% property tax increase. I know I'm not. So it's finding that balance, and it's, as Jody said earlier, it's using your ears to be able to talk to and listen to the elected officials and finding that balance of, okay, so what's the solution? How do we work on this? And I know the state legislature, again, we're fortunate and blessed that it's a Republican supermajority. And I know they're working on this, and they're working to try to find the solution. And I think we need to be good listeners on what they have planned. But then, whichever one of us is elected, we immediately need to turn around and come in and we meet with what we hope is going to be our next mayor, Danny Williams, or we meet with Donnie Weiss and our county commissioners and our city council members all across this district to say, how would this legislation affect you? Is this a good bill? Is this something that you would change? If you've got something that you would change because you're in the trenches locally, what would it be? That's where we have to be good listeners, is listening to those people on a one-on-one basis.
Well, stay with you, Mr. Keenan, on this. How would you bring more infrastructure investment such as broadband, road, and utilities to underserved parts of our district?
So I know that there's been different initiatives in the federal government, hopefully under the Trump administration, is going to be pushing new legislation to help us in our rural districts specifically. I know that when I was mayor of the town of Pleasant View, we had some of those initiatives come through Cheatham County. I actually my wife used to be the director for the Chamber of Commerce, and we had meetings with, I think it was AT&T Fiber at that time, and also meeting with CEMC to talk about pushing like good quality internet, not just the dial-up stuff, but good quality internet into our rural districts to make sure that they had the services and had access. And a lot of that was key because a lot of our students and our young kids that are in our schools use the internet every single day to go in and help them study, to help them answer questions, to prepare for their homework, and unfortunately sometimes cheat, but you know, it is what it is. Kids are clever, but they needed good access to internet, and that's one of the things that the state's been pretty proactive on. I fully support if President Trump and the Republican Party, the Democrats can get together on that and do a unified bill to push more funding into the state of Tennessee to allow us to broaden our infrastructure, absolutely. Part of it also goes back to the infrastructure of water and just making sure that you've got good, solid people like Scott over at the Dixon Water Authority that are on top of their water, and they know it. Man, that he knows more about water than I'll ever know, other than just what I'm drinking tonight. He's sharp, and I love knowing that we've got people like that in this district. We've also got, unfortunately, like in the district half of Cheatham County, you've got some areas that are served by NES. Guess what? They ain't so sharp sometimes, especially in the rural sections. And so I worked with our county commission to go in and put forward a resolution that got sent to Nashville asking our state legislators to push for new regulations to hold NES accountable, especially in things like the ice storm. And so you've got, again, going back to DEI, NES spent more money on DEI, I think it was maybe last year, or they were proposing it this year. It was within the last 24 months to spend more money on DEI training than they spent on trimming trees proactively. Like, let's think about that. Like, that's a problem. That's a real problem. So on a state level, that's when your good, solid conservative Republicans can get in and they can be the backbone for these local elected officials to say they need help, and we can be the muscle to make it happen.
So this is one that I mentioned earlier, that there's some things worth fighting for. I'm just gonna let's be honest, our rural districts are ignored. Whether it be road infrastructure, broadband. My wife and I live in Pegram, and 5 minutes from my house, we can supposedly put a man on the moon, but I lose phone service going down Sam's Creek. It's ridiculous. It's there. When I was on the school board, we had to have hotspots, especially during COVID, and I won't even get started on that, when we were trying to be proactive and have kids do work at home. Their parents would have to drive them to some of our schools for hotspots because they didn't have internet. We're being ignored in our rural districts, period. No way around it. And this is going to one of those things where you have to have the fortitude, a fighter, whatever it be, to go in. And yes, it's all about relationships, but there are some things worth fighting for. And there has to be someone to say, enough's enough. We're tired of being ignored. This is what we need, and we need it now. Help us get it done. And that's where building those relationships, serving Dixon County, Cheatham County, that you go in and you have to get it done. Because again, there are some things you have to push because we've been ignored, we're being ignored, and throwing high fives and saying, hey, good to see you, how you doing? That's not getting it done, that hasn't worked. So this is one of the things that we have to fight for, and our rural districts have to be stopped being ignored.
Mr. Allen, we'll stay with you. Would you support the construction of a data center in our district? Why or why not? What would the parameters be? Thank you.
Could you repeat the last part?
I'm sorry, I was excited about not losing my voice. We'll start all over again. Would you support the construction of a data center in our district? Well, if so or if not, and what parameters you put on the location?
As of right now, no. And the reason being, there's too many unknowns. There's too many unknowns for me to make an informative decision, concerns on water runoff, how it's going to affect the power grid. There's just entirely way too many unknowns for me to be able to make an educated, informative decision. So until I have that information, no, I could not support anything like that. Now, if the education comes out and we do start to realize things, then of course, I have an open mind, willing to discussion, but from what I know right now, entirely way too many unknowns, absolutely not. One of the many things that's being discussed in Cheatham County, here in Dixon County as well, I think is extremely proactive and smart, these moratoriums. County commissioners, county mayors, they don't know the effects either. So put the moratorium in, let there be more research. There are areas that do have them. Let's get more information, more research, but to answer your question, from what I know right now, not enough information, too many unknowns, and no, I would not support it.
I've been pretty public about this one. This is just not okay for our district. Data centers are just not a good fit. We have too much rural area. We have too many farmlands. We have too many areas that we just don't need it here in this district. As I said a week or two ago when we had our last candidate forum, every single one of us in the room have one of these. And the one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to lose the data center race to China. Because again, I don't think anybody wants China to hold all the data that's in our cell phone. I know I don't. I'm pretty sure most of you in here don't either. So, as I used to tell my city council members sometimes when, they would come up and they would have a problem for every solution, I would tell them, hey guys, to do nothing is not an option. So if there's an opportunity for us to learn from other people that are out there that are helping to blaze the trail and do it the right way for data centers, then let's take a listen. But until then, I'm 100% against data centers. I will say that one of the things that we can take a lesson from is what Elon Musk is doing down in Memphis. The project that he's putting down there, which is a multi-billion-dollar project, is going to have what's called a closed-loop water system. That's how you protect our water supply. That's how you keep our water table and our watershed protected from any kind of pollutants that may come from data centers. Closed-looped meaning that the water stays inside the building, it stays in a loop, it's refiltrated, and it just stays there. It doesn't get dumped out into my creek or your river. The other thing also is the Trump administration has been pretty vocal about this. When it comes to data centers, they're pushing for what's called a internal sustained energy supply. And they're onto something with that, because for all of us here that are serviced by TVA, we don't want our rates increased because TVA has to put in new transmission lines just to fund a data center. I don't want to pay more in electricity. I pay too much as it is right now, especially with 2 teenagers in the house that argue over whether it's hot or cold all the time. And my daughter, God bless her, side tangent, came in the other day when it was 98 degrees outside and said, Dad, can we turn the heat on? Bless her heart, as we would say as good Southern Christians. But all of that to say, if the Trump administration is successful with this initiative and this push to allow these data centers to have their own self-contained power supplies that would be amazing, it will help us that are TVA customers not have to share the burden or carry the burden of the rate increases because they have to put in new transmission lines or they have to help fund some project because they have to go around the snail darter in such and such creek. So that's going to be the way to go if we are able to have data centers.
I want everyone to know at this point, we only have 4 more questions, and the candidates have done very well. They've been very patient.
Is there popcorn available? Because I think these people could use it.
I think they're going to open up in the back there. I think Mr. Eby is going to open the bar up for everyone and all the popcorn you can eat. So I think he can left the room, so we'll work that out with him. But want to get here, we're narrowing this down and going to get to the end, so we'll continue. Don't have too much more. The Dobbs decision that the Supreme Court did allowed the state to determine abortion issues in the state of Tennessee in all states. What should you think the state legislature should do to prevent abortion pills being mailed, sent through the U.S. mail, or adults taking people across the state line to have an abortion performed?
100% against the mail-in abortion pills. I'm very blessed that I was just endorsed this week with Tennessee Right to Life. I'm very proud of that. That's a phenomenal endorsement that I carry with honor. they go through a pretty stringent interview process, and they ask you all kinds of questions about how you believe and where you believe and what your philosophies are when it comes to this. Abortion is wrong. It just is. And while I have my own personal beliefs on a personal level when it comes to things like, what if a woman is raped, or what if there's an incest situation? At the end of the day, the state of Tennessee has phenomenal abortion laws on the books, and I see no need at all to lighten those up in any way, shape, or form. So I fully support the abortion laws that we have on the books in the state of Tennessee.
I do as well, but to answer your question, the mailing of those pills from out of state, different countries, must come to a stop immediately. It's circumventing our law. I don't agree with it. And I don't care what the circumstances are. It's not that child's fault. Abortion is abortion, and I'm going to use a strong word. It's murder. I don't believe in it. And to answer your question, we absolutely need legislation to stop the mailing of those pills.
Thank you. The next question is, we've seen in the news where many businesses have fled New York City and had to work on bailouts for large governments to help them balance their budget. What is your concern for Tennessee, especially the two large blue cities, and what we may have to do in the state legislature?
Could you repeat that last portion?
Yes. What is your concern about this issue, and what made the state legislature have to do about these issues?
Well, one of the things we don't need to do is be giving millions of dollars of our taxpayer dollars to companies like Starbucks, who don't think like us, look down on us, and don't like our way of life. We don't need to invite that type of atmosphere or businesses here, so stop wasting our tax dollars on that. We have to be extremely careful because the gentleman mentioned it earlier. We need to keep Tennessee. And as these businesses start to flee New York and other areas, and listen, Tennessee is an attractive place to raise a family, run a business, but we need to really make sure that we're not attracting people like Starbucks and giving them our taxpayer dollars and incentives that come here who don't believe in our way of life and look down on our way of life. So this is one of those things, again, where you have to know, no matter how appealing it is, or the nice, shiny red object, ooh, yes, please come to us. If they look down on us, they don't like our way of life, and they want to come here and change it, we don't want it, and we don't need it.
Tennessee's been very fortunate to be such an attractive state to do business in, and we've become one of the fastest growing states as far as acquiring new headquarters and that type of thing. Part of that comes from initiatives, if you call it, or carrot and stick, to be able to bring in some of these corporations from out of the area. Going back to, again, what John Rose talked about last week here in Dickson County. He said Starbucks. Here's the problem. Starbucks is getting essentially kicked out of Seattle because they're not liberal enough. Like, can you imagine bringing a company like that here because they're not liberal enough for Seattle? Even the mayor, according to John Rose, is boycotting Starbucks because they're not liberal enough. And yet Starbucks spent almost $5 million on educational initiatives in the South, not all over the United States, in the South, to try and educate us on DEI, LGBTQ community, boys and girls bathrooms, that kind of thing. Are you kidding me? Like, this is Tennessee. Get that crap out of here. I'm not having it. Absolutely not. And so we've got a problem, and as someone that bleeds capitalism through and through, if there's an opportunity to bring good businesses here, then yeah, absolutely. And if it takes tax incentives to do that, I'm okay with that within reason. But we have to make sure that it is a good fit for Tennessee, and to bring it down to even more of a local level. Here specifically in Dickson County, if the mayor of the county or the mayor of the city says, hey, we've got an opportunity to land this business and it's going to be a good fit for us, then I'm going to lean in. I'm going to help provide some muscle and backbone on a state level to make us look as attractive as possible to help land that business here. But if a business is looking here and the mayor says, man, this just ain't a good fit, we don't need that here, then we've got to take it the other way, and we've got to be able to be the backbone for that mayor or those elected officials to push back and say, we don't want that business operating here in the city of Dixon.
Oh, I forgot where we were there for a second.
I think we were waiting on popcorn.
You got my mind on food. Thank you for doing that. Two more questions. Here's the next to last one. As our district grows and you see an increase in homes being built and people moving in from other areas, what can you as a member of the state legislature do to ensure that we have enough infrastructure in place to support growth? How should this growth be funded?
So first of all, you lean in again to the people that are on your local utility boards. If they've got a project that's coming in, if your local mayors reach out or your county commissioners reach out and they say, hey, we've got an opportunity to land this subdivision and it's going to be a positive for the community or it's going to be a positive for the county or the district as a whole, then you kind of roll up your sleeves and say, okay, what can I do to help? I'm here. You know, as somebody that spent 8 years as mayor in the town of Pleasant View and worked with a lot of developers to bring old, bankrupt, or subdivisions that were in receivership with banks, to bring them back online, to have a new developer come in and purchase those and breathe new life in and finish those subdivisions out so that it wasn't a blight on the community. Like, I get it, I understand, making sure that we've got not just the utilities, but making sure we've got the access to roads and all those types of things. A lot of those funds come from what's called state shared revenues. And state shared revenues on a local level, those are monies that the state of Tennessee sends us back that's based off of the population that we have and also money that we're able to receive on sales tax. So those are some things that just protecting the opportunities for our local communities to receive their share of state shared revenues and making sure that those don't get throttled or those don't get choked on the state level. We got to keep our communities fully funded. The other thing also is just making sure that if you get one of your people from the utility district that says, hey, we've got an opportunity to land this, but we need some grant money or we need some help here. Just kind of being those ears on the ground, those eyes and ears, being in the trenches with them to say, hey, let me do some digging, let me see what grant opportunities there are, working with your congressman to see if there's opportunities on the federal level to receive grants to help bolster your infrastructure. Those are some key things.
So obviously, infrastructure is key. A lot of the areas that small towns and smaller counties, specifically what I feel rural counties are preyed upon by developers, is an increase in tax. A small town mayor gets excited, hey, they're gonna bring in this restaurant, or hey, they're gonna bring in these subdivisions. When the infrastructure is not already there, you get yourself into a problem. You start being more reactive, and we need to be proactive. So before you start bringing, that's why growth plans are so important at the city and county level, and sticking to those growth plans. Because what you get into a situation, if you're a small town mayor and you're already almost at capacity with your sewer system, or there's a strain on your water, then all of a sudden, here comes that sexy new developer that needs this, that, and the other. You get behind the 8 ball, because once you get behind the 8 ball, when it comes to infrastructure, you can never catch up. And again, our rural areas, like I said earlier, I think we're preyed upon. And you'll see a lot of developers come in, cut corners, and you have politicians who I don't think is done purposefully, but they see an increase in taxes, an increase in this and that, and it's almost like they put blinders on and they're missing the small things and corners being cut. The infrastructure's not there, or if it is there by the time this development's finished, we're tapped out. Then all of a sudden, you have a whole different mess and issue that you're dealing with. So obviously, like Mr. Keenan had stated, that's the role of a state representative. If someone from Cheatham County or Dixon County, hey, we've got this development coming in, we need assistance with this grant or these funds, that's extremely important. But you also need to have a representative that's willing to sit down with a local representative and maybe have that tough conversation with the mayor. It's like, hey, Mr. Mayor, are you really sure, that this is what you want to do? And have those tough discussions, because again, once you get behind the 8 ball when it comes to infrastructure, it's almost impossible to catch up, and we're being preyed upon in rural areas by some of these developers.
Fantastic. We are at a point now, I want to combine the last 2 questions because I think we've been here an hour. My legs are starting to hurt. Everyone else gets to see except me. I don't understand that. I'm going to work at my contract next time. But on this, this is, I'll combine these two and use this as your closing statements and take the latitude you need on these. Both these questions, one, how will you make yourself accessible to constituents in the 78th District? Will you pledge to respond to constituents' communication and maintain open office hours? If elected, what measure will you use to measure success while you're in office? What measures should constituents use to measure your success in office? Mr. Allen.
So accessibility, absolutely. Not only from, and this is a bare minimum, office hours, set standard office hours. When someone reaches out to you, it sounds simple, but it doesn't happen. You pick up the phone and you return the phone call. If someone requests a meeting, you have the meeting. Again, I don't like to oversimplify things, but sometimes it's that simple. And we have politicians at the state and local level that don't do those small things. And there's many reasons why people don't like politics, don't trust politicians. Well, that's one of them. Pick up the darn phone and call somebody back. Respond to an email and meet with them. Because guess what? In this position that you have to have thick skin. Because my entire professional career, I have dealt with what most people would consider difficult conversations, dealt with it on a daily basis. Because my job, my entire professional career is fixing problems, other people's problems. Whether it be there's a domestic, whether it be someone's child is missing. My job, my entire professional career was to show up at someone's house and solve their problem. And that's when I was talking about earlier, the sledgehammer approach. I've got a problem, this is what it is, I fix it, and to know what that problem is, you have to listen to people. Well, it goes back to my time on the school board where I actually grew and learned that the sledgehammer approach doesn't always work. Sometimes the scalpel's necessary. And going back, again, building those relationships, but when you build those relationships and have that thick skin, there are times for a scalpel, there's time for a sledgehammer, but you have to be willing to take the heat from your constituents. And they have to, and a lot of people, they just want to be heard. They don't want me to interrupt them. They don't want me to give excuses. They want me to sit there, be quiet, let them say their piece and be heard. And a lot of times that they just want to be heard. But the office hours, you have to let people listen, you have to be heard, you respond to them, because that's the bare minimum, guys. Whoever wins this race, we're here to represent you guys and hear your concerns. And back to my professional career, where what I think might be a trivial issue for him is the most important thing on Charles's mind right now, because he's reached out to his state representative. So don't be trivial. And that's one of the things that I learned in my professional experience, especially working the streets, shagging calls as a deputy sheriff. That person called me to their house for a reason. I'm state representative, that person is in my office for a reason. Listen to them, take it seriously, because it's not trivial. It doesn't matter what I think. It's my job to hear them out and come up and help them solve a problem. And listen, here's something else. Like Jody mentioned earlier, don't tell people what they want to hear. Tell them the truth. And guess what? Sometimes the truth is, I hear you, but there's absolutely nothing I can do about that. But guess what? Let's try to find a solution. And you know what? A lot of people, that's going to upset. But going back to, because when you start telling people what they want to hear and telling the truth, it's going to get yourself in trouble. So just be honest and upfront with people and listen to them. And I apologize. What was the second part of the two-part?
I don't know, I'll pull it back in. No, it's what would you measure a success for yourself as a state legislator, and what will the citizens use that to measure?
What I measure success is I have, again, what most people think is that difficult conversation with someone, and we leave that conversation, in my mind, as success is we can still agree to disagree. We had a civil conversation. I heard them out. We still might have a difference of opinion, but I heard them out, and we can just have a agree to disagree. To me, that's success. I've heard that person out, and again, the truth. I might not be able to fix that, but having that honesty with that person, in my mind, that's success. Many people, success, I won re-election. That's not my type of success. My success is someone knows if they pick up the phone and call me, they know that I'm going to answer. That's success for me. And if I have to have a difficult conversation with someone and we leave and we shake hands and we're not throwing books at each other, that's success. So that's how I manage success.
Thank you.
Are we also doing this as
Excuse me?
Are we doing additional closing remarks?
This is your additional closing remarks. And Mr. Allen, if there's anything you'd like to add, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I appreciate everyone's patience in being here tonight. It's been a long night. Mr. Keenan and myself can get a long-winded on certain issues, especially what we're passionate about and what we have experience in. But I want to thank you all for being here. Early voting is right around the corner. The only thing I ask of everybody in this room is continue to do your research. If you're not for certain, we both have voting records. Go look them up. If you want to meet with me, you have questions, call me. I'll come meet you. I'm an open book. I got thick skin. I can take it. So just again, be educated, and like some of the other individuals, voter turnout is crucial, not only in our election, but the general election in August for the county. We need to come out, we need to be vocal, and no matter what happens, as a party, we need to stick together, because if we're not careful, that supermajority that we all love and we all brag about in a short period of time could be gone if we're not careful. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for allowing me to be here on our anniversary.
So, the measures of success. One of the ways is just making sure that you are absolutely empathetic, even if it's something that you just have no sympathy for. Because the people at that moment, at that time, that is the single most important thing on their mind. They've taken the time to reach out to you personally to have an issue. And as a state representative, our job is to be your voice on Capitol, on Capitol Hill. And so if they feel like it's important enough to reach out to you to say, I've got an issue and I need some help, even if you know there's not a snowball's chance, you still need to have empathy. You need to be able to have that discussion, because guess what? You might learn something. I used to tell our elected officials all the time in the town of Pleasant View, I really am not the sharpest person in the room, but I'm absolutely certain that I'm going to surround myself with people that are, because I want to be able to learn. I want to be able to listen. And one of the things that I have seen over and over again is people that are really smart and really intelligent have a level of empathy for everyone, regardless of color, race, creed, political ideologies. You have empathy. And that's really key. Having a servant's heart for this district as long as I have, and all of the things that we've done and accomplished over the years, you know, both of us as elected officials, you have to have that level of empathy. You have to be able to listen. Ears on the ground. The other thing that's a key measure of your success is stories like I told earlier about Andy Lane, who got to open that business. Now that wasn't me. That wasn't because I was special. I don't take any credit for anything other than just sampling a little moonshine and going in and helping make sure that we had laws on the books so that young man could get his business open. It took a team effort. I just happened to be the lead dog in that dog sled, but it took a team effort. I couldn't get that done by myself. And so making sure that you give credit where credit is due, and if there's an opportunity for someone else to get the spotlight, absolutely. And so to me, those are ways that you measure success, is through the successful stories of people that will reach back out to you and say, you made a difference. You listened when no one else would. You absolutely helped me when I needed it most. Those are the things, those are the changes that we get to have as elected officials in each and every life that we touch. And you know what the best part is? If you believe in the butterfly effect, which, you know, if you don't know what that is, if you don't know what that is, the short version is, like, you never know if the theory is a butterfly flaps its wings here and it can create a typhoon over in Japan because of the molecules moving through the air that gather, like the butterfly effect. You never know when that one moment is going to change someone's life that then can change someone else's life, that can have a tremendous impact on what's going on in the future of Tennessee. Not just this district, but the future of Tennessee. And so with that, I believe I've answered all the questions about the empathy aspect. Did I miss anything, or as far as measures of success? Okay, all right, then there we go. So with that, you have to give it to John's wife. Let's give her a round of applause. Seriously. Leah, we hope that he takes you, no offense, Jeff, to a restaurant that has better food than the VFW in Dixon. Okay. No offense to Jeff.
Fine, Jeff. You're
The pizza's fantastic, Jeff, but no offense. But the beer is ice cold, and that's great. So gotta hear for that. So I'll leave it with this, guys. You've got two conservative Republicans that are up here. You've got Christian conservatives that want what's best for this district. Your job as voters and people that are listening in this room is to go in and say, who do I feel like I'm more closely aligned with? And at the end of the day, I pray that it's me. I hope it's me. If there's questions that you have, I'd love to answer those on a one-on-one. But at the end of the day, the single most important thing I can tell you to do is go vote. There's a lot of people that this building represents, the VFW here, that have gone out and they put their lives on the line, or they sacrificed and gave all, so that all of us in this country have the ability to go vote, and vote in a free country without oppression and without fear of retributions. So we absolutely have to take care of that. I can tell you that my role as a leader has always been to make sure that I'm listening. Because I can go up there and I can say I want to do all of these amazing things for this district and the people in this district, but if I don't have input from the people that are here to say this is what's important to me, I'm just, as the Bible would say, a noisy gong, or God bless you, God bless you. As the Bible would say, just a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And that's not what you want for your next politician that's going up there, because at the end of the day, this district needs to be represented and represented well. It's an awesome district. We've got some amazing opportunities that are going on here in Dixon and Cheatham counties. And I would be absolutely honored. I'd be blessed to have your vote. I humbly ask for your vote. Mayor, thank you for your years of service. And guys, I'm gonna close it with this. We got a house full of Republicans here. Danny Williams, stand up for a second. Thank you, Danny. Danny Williams is in a dogfight for the next mayor of Dixon County, and it's one that we cannot afford to lose. So regardless of whichever one you vote for up here on this stage, you absolutely need to vote for that man. It's critically important to the success of Dixon County. With that, God bless. Danny, best of luck to you, and we'll see you, I guess, in another week or so at your next candidate forum, so thank you.
That is absolutely fantastic. And I know that there's so many of you Republicans in here, but here comes an old man story, so get in your bunker. But dealing with Republican politics in Middle Tennessee and this district all these years, there are people that came before these folks that beat on the door to get where they are today. They never won an election. You will not know their names. I'll tell you their names after the fact. You'll know who they are. But they fought for the Republican conservative cause when this state was blue. Then you have people like Mary Littleton, Brian Reagan, Jody Barrett, Michael Curcio that actually kicked the door down. I am so impressed that we have quality candidates like this to choose from to represent us in Nashville. So give them a great hand one more time. Since I have an outdoor voice, all candidates come up front to get your picture made. Come on up. And thanks for being here.
Sorry, no, you're good. Go ahead. If I didn't get